Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopath Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and Genesis, a range of supplements designed for those diagnosed with chronic kidney disease to decrease creatinine levels and increase eGFR. And I'm joined again today by the amazing, the wonderful Dr. Robin Rose, all the way from Hawaii. Robin is a medical doctor. She's specialized and has an interest in primary care, but specifically in nephrology. We've just been chatting before I hit record. Her actual special interest is early stage kidney disease because no one else is doing that. Everybody comes to it when we're all at the end. But she's a family trained medicine practitioner. She trained in Santa Rosa in California in the 1990s. And then she has her own journey that she went through with chronic kidney disease. And so she knows this disease inside and out. So Dr. Robin Rose is a mouthpiece for the Peptides, which is our, we've got this lovely Facebook community of everybody that's using peptides. But what Robin is really niched and specialized in is the bioregulators, which are, I'll let Dr. Rose describe those in detail, but they are the shorter peptides. They work quite differently. We sort of spoke about them last time when we did an introduction to them and talked about Peptides, which is the kidney bioregulator. But Dr. Rose, welcome back. You've written a book as well. I should absolutely mention that one as well, Renology, which is her beautiful book on all things bioregulators.
Which I'll show off the cover because I love this so much.
Oh, it's such a beautiful cover. And if you can't see the weight of that book, it's a proper big textbook. So for anyone that wants to know anything about bioregulators, that is the go-to book. Thanks for joining me again. How are you?
Thank you. It's lovely to see you again, always.
I always just love your background of that lush tropical Hawaiian island. It's just...
I'll give the audience just a little bit of... it's beautiful here. I'm sitting here looking at bamboo and beautiful.
No, you of not doing the proper daylight, connecting to nature and all the things that we know make a huge difference in people's healing. But you are grounded to the max where you are, huh?
Indeed. I mean, you know, one of my projects that I'm already starting to work on, I have a website that I'm putting things that would have been chapters in the book, but I finally decided enough already. I couldn't even lift the thing. Is my kidney garden. And to me, the garden is a sanctuary of health. And so there's a lot of plants that are actually kidney friends. And I'm doing the little deep dives on each one. You know, what's the risks and benefits? I mean, many things. It's an incredible thing. So, you know, bioregulators is one pathway. And there's so many of them. I mean, it's amazing. And choosing the right weaving of those things really is an art that we as clinicians need to figure out and we as patients need to figure out. So I love the bioregulators, though. I mean, it's an amazing thing to actually have something that is able to clean up the mess that happens by living in a toxic world upon the genes that we were given at birth.
Yeah. So for people that don't know and haven't listened to the previous podcast, and with Dr. Rose, and just so you know, Dr. Rose and I are going to do a series on bioregulators. It's going to take us years to go through everyone, but do you want to just recap high level what a bioregulator is and what makes it different from a regular peptide in the mechanism of how it works in the body?
Absolutely. So proteins are these big, long chains of amino acids, you know, hundreds of them, and they fold up. And so, you know, in the body, okay, that part of that folded up protein would be the active place where it hooks onto something and creates an action. So those are big and bulky. The body reacts to some of them. As we age, they decline in their production. And so then we have peptides are a piece of that protein. And it might be, okay, like that may be the very active place, but this whole little chunk here, this fragment, is what we consider a peptide. And by current lingo, that's up to 50 amino acids. So those are still sizable. Many of them are too big to take orally because the stomach will just break them up. And so they're injected like another peptide called insulin.
Mhm.
We all know glutathione. I mean, a lot of our hormones are these peptides. But then there are some that are really tiny. So it may be that little bump right there.
Mm.
That may be the 2 to 4 amino fragment. Little things. They're very agile. And so the difference is the bigger peptides need receptors. It's a little bit of chemical expense to get in the cell and to do what they're doing. The bioregulators are very small and agile. They can get through the cell membrane. They even get into the nuclear membrane. And what their claim to fame is they can hop into the DNA, expand it, because they're the, we all know about the helix. And so it spreads that out. Histones are part of the DNA that are affected by epigenetics. And these things go in there and they repair that stuff back to factory settings. I mean, when I heard that, I was like, I want this. And I mean, I felt pretty broken. I mean, I've told my story more times than I like to say, but I had a GFR of 30. I'd had a kidney removed for cancer. Health food Hannah that did everything right. What? What? And so life's toxic. I grew up in breathing bus fumes, walking down Fifth Avenue as a teenager, going to art school. And, I mean, the world is full of pesticides and plastics and God knows what. And so, after X number of decades, sometimes things just start declining. And it's not just because you're getting old, but that doesn't mean anything. It means there's been these, I had a lot of stresses. Many of us who have dealt with stuff, I mean, you start dissecting the story. Okay, I have some insight and understanding. And with that, and this is true for all of us who deal with kidney disease, then you start exploring, what do I need to know? The spiritual part is asking for guidance. Guide me to what I need. And I've been rewarded by that prayer and call to the divine so many times. It blows my mind. I mean, it's amazing. And so I first learned about peptides, and to be honest, I'm a needle phobe. I can't say I love having these. My husband was a pediatric nurse.
Yay,
Very
that was
helpful.
objective. Yeah, very, very helpful.
He's very tolerant. I'm better at it than I was at first, but not my most fun thing. So when I heard the bioregulators are small enough that they actually don't get destroyed by the stomach acid, I was like, sign me up. You can actually inject many of these, and there are some doctors who feel like only injectables work. I might be influenced by my own interests and needs, but I see them doing amazing things. And so I learned about pilotax. These things originally are like glandulars. I mean,
Mm.
naturopaths have been using glandulars, and I learned from naturopaths how to do that and did for many years. They're wonderful. I mean, I found a lot of benefits from them, but these things are more refined. So
Mm.
sometimes people would react to the enzymes and these extracts, but there's really very, very little, if any, reactivity to these bioregulators. And in a situation like CKD, where the body reacts to everything, it's all like, everything that comes in, the kidney has to deal with. And if it's more toxins, it's like those poor little kidney tubules are really stressed out and stop working as well. And
Yeah.
so, we have tools, and that gives me a sense of hopefulness because, you know, if for me, and I'm sure this is true for many people, I was seeing one nephrologist after the other who was basically giving me a death sentence. Not any hope, not like here's a way that you can help yourself. I'm really ashamed of that in that way, because I'm a motivated patient. I was asking, and I was like, don't worry. People live for a long time like that. It's like, excuse me, I feel like so. I found that it was necessary to start looking, and so, like we were talking about, since I'm primary care, people show up in a vague state. I don't feel good. Or maybe they have the flu, and then you find out, well, they haven't been feeling good for the last 5 years. What's up? Let's see. And so the early part of kidney disease is ignored.
Oh, 100% it is. Yeah.
Like, I mean, not only ignored, but it's called normal. And it's just like, wait a minute, okay, if you have kidney stones or if you're peeing protein out, okay, maybe we'll maybe think about it as a problem. But, we use the lab estimated GFR, glomerular filtration rate. It's a made up number because it's very complicated to actually get it exactly. We couldn't afford to do it. And it's useful, but in the current way of using it, there's stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stage 1, people are pretty fine. I mean, mostly I give them primary prevention. Don't hurt yourself. Do smart stuff. Stage 2, though, really fascinates me. And that's the GFR from 60 to 90.
Yep.
And the allopathic thinking, that's normal.
Yeah, they've only just changed the reference range in Australia. Some labs will say greater than 60, others say greater than 90. It boggles my brain.
And I'm glad, because that's changing. It didn't used to be like that. Greater than 60 wasn't CKD. So, we're seeing some changes, and I'm glad, because what I found out about what the tubules do is they're like precious items that you really don't want to have damage. And I use the analogy like the small intestine, because we eat stuff, and the small intestine does a lot of deciding about what's going to happen. Do I keep? Do I excrete? So does the kidney tubules. Every part of the blood goes through the kidney, and things get this fancy set of tubules are decide with little transporters. Do I keep the sodium, bring it back in the body? Do I pee it out? That has to do with like toxins, with hormones, all kinds of stuff, all of the electrolytes in our body. And, so you say, well, kidney just does filtration, but that's not exactly the issue. What the real problem is downstream. So what if your sodium and calcium and phosphorus are all messed up? And those are all big conversations and big stories.
Yeah.
So, my thought was, what do you do? Like, where do we start? We don't even have labs for that. But it helps to know, I have like a list of things, the glycemic issues, that means the whole sugar deal, the cardiovascular stuff, anybody with high blood pressure, I think you got to deal with kidneys. The immune system stuff, autoimmune, neoplastic, cancers, toxins. I think that's about my list. And so we're here to talk about carnosine today.
We are.
Carnosine
So how does
is
it fit
like
in?
two amino acids. It's like this little
Wow,
tiny
it's
powerhouse.
tiny.
And yet, all those things that I just mentioned, that's what they do. They repair all of that.
So I know you love carnosine. It's funny, on this Facebook group, Robin is always posting articles, which I love because it means we can go down the rabbit hole and study. She's like, carnosine does this. Oh, carnosine does this. And then so I went out and bought myself some carnosine. So I was like, carnosine doesn't do.
Exactly. That's what I say. I mean, what doesn't it
Yeah.
do?
So, and I know probably more than Pilotax, and we started with Pilotax because it's the kidney one, but I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, carnosine is your favorite bioregulator. So for everyone listening, tell everybody what carnosine is, and then let's go down a rabbit hole of why Dr. Robin Rose loves carnosine as much as she does.
So we have alanine and histidine. Those are the two amino acids. If you take those two separately, they're not going to do what happens when these things come together in a bond. And I'm not the best chemist in the world, but I'm looking at what is it about these peptide bonds? Because I mean, I think of it as a marriage, you know, like my husband and I are cool people together. We're amazing. I'm very grateful. And we got together when I was 60, so it's like one of those even better stories. So putting these things together, all of a sudden, I mean, I look in my own book for help with this because there's so many things that it does that I forget. I mean, when you think about what could go wrong with what's the problems with kidney? And we think of inflammation as a real buzzword. Ultimately, any kind of kidney problem, inflammation, oxidative stress, and fibrosis, meaning scarring.
Yep.
That's the common denominator. Carnosine works at that level. Okay, that's sweet, Um, the cardiovascular issues that we know are kidney, the endothelial issues, nitric oxide, carnosine attends to that. Hydrogen sulfide, which I still don't have like the best handle on, but it fixes that. It actually is a natural ACE inhibitor. So most people are given, an ACE inhibitor pharmaceutical when they have kidney disease, especially proteinuria. This helps. And it doesn't counteract each other. It actually enhances medications, which is really nice to know with bioregulators. It's like some things, you put together with a medication and you have a problem. With these, you don't. And I just think that's incredible. So here's some other things. It's a buffer for pH, both, systemically and in the muscles. So we know with kidney that acidosis is an issue.
Yeah.
No matter what stage. I mean, even in stage 2, there's already a problem. And what that is one of those transporters. When you think of acid, like HCl, the H ion,
Right.
it's that
Yep.
acid. And okay, if it's not going where it's supposed to, and it's staying in the body instead of going out in the urine, there's a systemic problem that gets everything messed up. And yeah, I'm a big fan of using magnesium citrate and bicarb. Well placed are amazing. But here, this is another, like, really gets into the mechanisms of these things and reverses stuff. I want it. I love this. Um, Protein glycation, we talk about the AGEs, molecules get messed up. Often this is a strong consequence of diabetes, which of course is a strong consequence in CKD. Even without diabetes, AGEs are like little bombs going off around the body, but tiny ones. So they're irritating and inflaming. Carnosine works at that level. I mean, it's like, again, heavy metals.
Ah,
I mean,
tell
talk
me more
about,
about that because I don't think
talk
a lot of
about,
people know about
yeah,
that
I
one.
mean, everybody with kidney disease should do a heavy metal panel and find out. I mean, how would you know? Like at the beginning of all this, I did one um, and found out I had a high mercury level. I don't anymore because, for one thing, I believe cilantro really helps. And I mean, I eat it by the fistful still. Whatever I cook, I'm like me and the scissor and a fist of cilantro. But um, carnosine actually can chelate copper, cobalt, nickel, cadmium, zinc, iron, lead.
Yeah, right. Would you worry about it chelating zinc and things and bringing that down too much? Or no, is it more nuanced than that, that it's removing toxic levels only?
Be aware. I mean, I've been taking it for years. My zinc level has remained adequate, and I actually only intermittently supplement it. I'm just going to every now and then I bolus because one thing is with a plant-based diet, there's that issue, and so some of the minerals need to be attended to: B12, zinc, and carnosine is from the muscle of animals.
Yes,
So,
well, yes, yeah. So say more about that. So I'm sorry, I'll let you keep going. What else does carnosine do? And then we'll talk about how it comes from the
Let's see if
muscle.
I'm forgetting things. Antioxidant activity, protects the mitochondrial membranes from free
Oh, hello.
radicals.
That's important.
I mean, xenobiotic induced oxidative stress is remediated by carnosine, including alcohol.
Oh, wow.
So, if there are people who drink more than they should with a kidney issue, here you get a little free pass. It actually, there was one study that they looked at sperm, and it actually helped to lower the damage to sperm by reactive oxygen species, by lipid peroxidation, malondialdehyde, all the good biochemistry. It's really amazing. Protects organs, protects the renal epithelial cells, so the linings of things.
Okay.
Get help. The AGEs and ALEs, I love that. I mean, that's an amazing thing. There's a few things that I've learned. It helps to supplement B6. It helps to supplement vitamin E, and works well along with melatonin. It's just part of all this. More
In the fact that it helps the transport of those vitamins and hormone into the system.
it just helps the carnosine stay together, because carnosinase breaks it down. And so there's need to kind of support it so it can keep active. The thing that I learned early on about peptides, I hope this is true. I mean, the science ever evolves. But the way that I understand this is there'll be a hit with the peptide will show up.
Yeah.
And what they say is it's gone very quickly. And so what does that mean? Is the downstream effects are already happening. And that's really cool. In other words, it doesn't have to last for hours and hours and hours to be effective. That's why it kind of does a hit, like it pushes the button and then the downstream happens. But, there's interest, and I've heard other docs talking about this, to find ways to promote its prolongation. And so those are some of the ways, in researching, well, okay, B6 is necessary for it to remain intact. Okay, that's easy enough. Taking a B complex is not a bad idea with CKD anyway.
No, especially with all the other things that does. Okay. And sort of talk about, so it comes from the muscle. Talk us through that.
Like carnitine, also, think of like the Spanish word carne. It's meat. And so these are things that come from animal muscles. And when one does not eat animal muscles, I imagine there's some endogenous production. And that's another deep dive that I'll probably be doing dives on carnosine for the rest of my life. It's amazing stuff. Keep dumping it in the peptide group. But not enough, when you see how much this does, I mean, dilates blood vessels, and, there's protection for cancer. I mean, it's like, wow, why wouldn't you want to take this? And I have other people who have no kidney issues taking carnosine as well. Anybody who says they're cutting down on animal foods, or, vegetarian/vegan, it's like, go ahead and take this.
Interesting.
It's worth it.
And what sort of dosage? Because I know, regular peptides that might come from Nature's Marble, for instance, they're generally saying 1 morning, 1 night. You and Dr. Grimberg and someone else I was talking to talked more about microdosing them, and maybe not microdosing, taking them more regularly at slightly higher doses, especially end-stage kidney disease and things like that. What are your thoughts on dosing of carnosine? Is it the same sort of 1 morning, 1 night, and how many milligrams is a one hit?
It's always different. You know, people ask like, what do you do? And I don't know what I do because it's always different depending on who's in front of me and what their story is financially. Are they capable of taking all this stuff? What's the clinical presentation? But I first learned it, I think I learned about the zinc carnosine, sorry, dosing, which is a lot lower. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of using zinc carnosine in CKD because sometimes zinc can go all over the place, and I think it'd be easy to miss the mark. You can always take zinc if you need it and be more cautious. That's just my preference. I could see a place for it because, as you say, you know, sometimes it might overdo its binding of zinc, and then you have trouble. So I originally learned the dosing as 37.5 milligrams twice daily. As I kept researching, I was like, no, that's really too low.
Mm.
And yet, um, I have to be honest, I haven't really delved into all of the resources that Phil Mikens, who's the pharmacist from Nature's Marvels, shared, that lower dosings. There are docs who are comfortable with the lower dosing, and I'm open to that. You know, I recommend 500 milligrams capsules and then decide. I don't like to just dump a big dose. Start slow, see how it feels. You know, watch what it feels like in your body, especially with kidney stuff. Everybody's so unique, and it's like, how attuned am I when I take something? Don't take 5 new things at once. It's utterly crazy because you never know. Then you got to stop everything. It's an annoyance. But I will gradually go up to 2,000 milligrams a day for many people. So, you know, personally, I take 500 milligrams, 2 capsules twice daily. And
Perfect. I was
I
just,
often recommend that to other people, including folks that don't have kidney issues. So
it's interesting in Australia, zinc carnosine is one of the major ingredients in all our gut formulas. So the years ago, the type of zinc, because we know zinc helps heal leaky gut syndrome, zinc and glutamine, you'll find in pretty much every practitioner-only product here in Australia that's designed for gut. And it's interesting, the form of zinc changed, I noticed maybe 5, 6 years ago, and everyone now uses zinc carnosine as the form of zinc in all their gut healing protocols, which I find very, very interesting, of whether that was a deliberate decision because of the way that zinc is chelated into carnosine, and whether it had because of all the amazing things that you've talked about with carnosine. I don't think they're using it for the carnosine. I think there's a marriage that happens between zinc carnosine inside the gut. So, and you talked about how carnosine is very healing to the endothelial tissue. So then I think, well, that would now make sense with our leaky gut, that's probably got an absolute affinity for all of this really, epithelial tissue and healing that way. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. I find it very interesting in all our practitioner products they're using. So yeah. Side effects. Are there anything that people should be aware about when supplementing or adding carnosine into their regime?
some people get nausea, you
Okay.
know, some people do. I'm gonna review my notes because, to be honest, I can't remember 800 pages.
Come on, Robin.
I wish I could. I mean, I'm using this book as a reference because I'm like, well, I don't, but I have not seen it, and so I can't even find it in here. But I saw something recently that I thought was interesting and that I hadn't considered, which is to put it on 5 days and off 2,
A bit like some of our other peptides.
like some other peptides. And I thought, interesting. Or, you know, take 2 weeks off. And I thought, okay, I appreciate that. I had not seen that in all of the journeying that I did. I mean, you know, the one chapter in this book on carnosine is the longest. It's 40 pages
That
because I
does it.
just kept finding so many things that were kidney related. I mean, I could keep going like, I was looking it up for gallbladder stuff because I was talking to someone who was having issues. I mean, everywhere I look, this stuff is like, yes, it shows up. So that's why I recommend people take it with food.
That also makes sense because being an animal protein and being an amino acid, well, part of an amino acid and things like that. So that all makes sense to me too with the
A little
hydrochloric
bit of
acid.
nausea. That was the only thing that I've found. And I
Okay.
haven't had anybody tell me they had nausea with it, so I don't know how
I
specifically
have, I
it
haven't
is.
either. I'm very prone to nausea, but in high doses, I can understand why maybe zinc carnosine in that form might. Maybe that's,
Yeah, exactly. That might be why. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, in the zinc form, zinc is renowned for causing nausea, so that makes sense. And what about studies? What have you come across? I know you had your book there. Are there any particular studies that jumped out at you where you're like, wow, that really is amazing about something that carnosine's done when it's been properly studied?
Like one after the other. I mean, that's why this got so long.
Yeah.
The natural ACE inhibitor, looking at that, really just, here's one, the effect of reactive oxygen species on podocytes. It fixed them up. There's a lot of genetic issues that have gotten looked at that I think, is interesting and probably over everybody's head in some ways. There is a relationship between um, the gallbladder and kidney, and carnosine is a good tool in that regard. It's really a good tool in diabetes. And here's something, it says it's a precursor of histamine and regulates the autonomic nervous system, which,
Interesting.
that's something that, I can attest to. I mean, at the beginning of dealing with all of this stuff for me, it was like, where's the fire? I mean, something would happen and my husband and I would both react and he's done. And like 2 days later, I'm still processing the chemistry of what happened. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even care about this anymore, but I'm still, because, emotions are chemicals. And
Yes.
if you can't get rid of the metabolites of those reactions you're having, so I make the joke, go to Vegas, as in
You do that.
the vagal nerve, it's like,
Yes. You made that
and-
one.
but finding, some of the bioregulators help with that. Carnosine helps with that. It helps with neurotoxicity. And
That's
anything
why I used it. Yeah, that was why I went onto it. You posted something about its effect in the nervous system, and because I've got MS and neurotoxicity, and I think it helped with the end synaptic connections. I think in improving synaptic uptake of neurotransmitters across the axons. And I think when I read that, I was like,
I want
sign me up. Exactly.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's
And sorry, keep going.
You go.
And I was going to say that the 5 days on, 2 days off, the reasoning I've heard behind that is so you don't dull receptor sites to things that are upregulating gene expression, so you don't get that dulling effect. Is that what you
Yeah,
see?
that was what I saw. I was looking for this right before we talked and I couldn't find it. I think I emailed it to myself somewhere. Um, the body gets sensitized to things. So it's really a good idea to cycle stuff anyway.
Yeah,
All the supplements, even the foods you eat. If you eat too much of something, the body might go, well, I don't know, I don't want this anymore. And that's the same thing with peptides as well. I mean, all the bioregulators included that, we cycle them. And the idea gradually is to improve and not need them.
that's what I love most about peptides, which is where I started my journey, and bioregulators. And like you, I think I love bioregulators so much. Villon was the first one. I remember when I was doing some mentoring with Dr. Grunberg, and he was like, yeah, goes in, resets your DNA of the immune system back to when you were 18. It'll unsilence anything that was silenced that shouldn't be, but it won't unsilence stuff that was deliberately turned off by the. I'm like, what? Villon does all of this? So I'm like, there is nothing like what everybody.
And that's another 2 amino acid one. Those are like, bam, they're amazing.
It blows my brains when you think about it logically that two little amino acids, and like you say, the marriage of them together are able to go in and, like you say, get right into DNA epigenetic expression and rewire it right in the DNA. Like, I don't know. I'm sure plants nutrition has a bulk effect on that, and eating and grounding and doing all the stuff that we do. I'm sure that epigenetic expression, but I don't know any molecules that specifically go in and they've been tested and measured that they do that. And Vilon obviously being one, and Carnosine being another, and all the bioregulators. I just find that personally for me, and I understand your obsession with bioregulators, because when I heard that, I was like, I get it now. Like, I find them fascinating. Like, two little amino acids joined together, like and off they go. Like, really, who knew? So simple.
Simple. I mean, here's an example. We have friends / neighbors who are incredible chicken farmers, and their eggs are incredible. They're gorgeous, huge things. And he had a small stroke. The guy is probably 70, I would think. And he's still driving a tractor. I mean, he's an active guy. But his wife told me, he's like not really quite in gear. And he was watching me writing the book and blabbermouthing about all this all the time. And at one point, he was like, I'd be interested in these. So I gave him, I think, just 2 bioregulators. I think I gave him brain and blood vessel.
So that, yeah.
And carnosine.
Okay.
3. He came back very shortly. He would. They take turns delivering the eggs, and so I got a chance to know him better. And he said, "I have a new lease on life."
Wow.
In a very short period of time, enough that then he and his wife both asked me to do a protocol for them for a whole year of cycling all of the bioregulators over the course of a year, which replicates to some extent the longevity study that Bill Lawrence has been doing, which was replicating what the Russians had done. And I've that's something I've been doing, with kidney patients, with other people as well, to basically it's like a full body renewal, because all this, I mean, and when you think about with kidney, that's part of what the point of the book is, that the kidney bone affects the brain bone, connects the eye bone, the liver bone connects the kidney bone. There's all these different axes. And so by stepping in, using a little liver bioregulator, if that relationship has been strained and both of them aren't quite working well, and honestly, carnosine goes on every one of those, and sometimes prolonged, like through the whole year. I may reassess and try to do the, whether I do 2-week off thing. I don't know yet. I've been taking it for so long that I'm like, I don't want to stop. I space it out. I've given myself permission not to take supplements on the weekend. And reading this stuff, it's like, oh, okay. I'm not just being like, I don't want to take them, because it's a pain in the neck to swallow all this stuff. I take a lot of capsules. And I also advise myself and others, bless them, rather than like, oh man, I don't want to take this. I mean, I grew up in New York and New Jersey being a whiny kid. So she still visits now and then. I'm like, no. It's like, let's turn this into joy, and it's like, I'm blessed to have access to this. There are people in the world who don't. And so, I mean, there's qualities and qualities of supplements. And so you don't necessarily want to buy the cheapest one.
No. Is there a brand of carnosine that you are really in love with?
Not really. I was using one, but then they started putting silicon dioxide in it, and that is on my list. I was taught that by Jenna Henderson, who is a naturopath who works with kidney only. If you guys don't know each other, you should. And she early on did a consult for me that saved my life, because the nephrologist was telling me, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. And I'm like, taking care of myself isn't worrying. Taking care of myself is self-love. And
Yes.
so she said, no silicon dioxide. There have been times where I needed something, and I actually asked her, and she's like, nothing's perfect. But we go out of our way to, take the microscope and find all the small print you can't read to make sure that there isn't silicon dioxide or titanium dioxide in these things. And so I think we've gone through several different brands now, and my hubby is the ordering person, so he's the better one to ask about this.
I think
Um,
Paradise Herbs were making, I think it was them and iHerb were making one that didn't have silicon dioxide in there, but I could be wrong. So, but I'd have to go have a look. But
who is that?
I think it was Paradise Herbs. I think it was them. Generally,
No. Yeah.
yeah, they're generally quite pure, but I'll have a look and I'll flick you a thing. So I'd gone down that rabbit hole too, but I'm sure you know I'm sure hubby is all over that. So
I know. I mean, he ran large business of massage schools and had ordered everything. And so to him, it's easy. I get all like, oh, I don't know. I'm not in love with computers. I just appreciate them.
So is there anything else about carnosine that we need to know?
Let's see. I'm gonna use my cheat sheet and say,
Mhm.
I'm gonna read my list. Engages in various metabolic pathways in the kidney. Reduces pro-inflammatory and pro-fibrotic cytokines. We all know about cytokines since COVID. Kidney
Yeah.
makes cytokines. Inhibits the advanced glycation end product formation, that the famous AGEs. That's, if you fry your food too high, you get these nasty molecules that mess up your blood vessels, etc. Decreases mesangial cell proliferation. I mean, that's like fibrosing the kidney, making them not work. Thank you. Scavenges peroxyl and hydroxyl radicals, more little nasty molecules that the body needs. I mean, these aren't like evil entities. They're just, when you have too much of it, it's too much of a thing. You only needed a little bit and it causes problems. I love this part, the natural ACE inhibitor. Um,
Mhm.
it actually works, and it enhances bradykinin, which is vasodilating. And so, there's a lot of cardiovascular benefits. It's on my list for people who have high blood pressure. Throw carnosine in there because of the anti-inflammation benefits that helps everything. And here's a really cool one. Well, first I'll say, relieves glomerular sclerosis. That's
My favorite. Yep. Very nice.
scarring of the little filters. They get scarred up. Filtering isn't happening, and you're in trouble. Um, Relieves proteinuria, so it's protecting the body's ability to discern. I'm going to keep these proteins. I'm not going to pee them out, which then is a bad prognosis. Nobody wants that. Protecting the epithelial cells of the tubules. That's amazing. But here's something that I love. Combining it with melatonin
Mhm.
offers protection to the kidney against radiation.
Wow. That's something I didn't know. We know how
Yeah,
powerful antioxidant melatonin can be. Did it have a dose that they used of melatonin?
I don't see that in. I'm,
Okay.
I'm, I can another dive to look and figure that out.
I'm just thinking of flying, like when, being in Australia, if I ever have to fly to the US, it's a long time and I get
Yes.
huge amounts of radiation exposure being up in the air because I used to fly a lot.
Yeah.
I take melatonin, but using melatonin and carnosine for long haul flights to protect kidneys.
Yeah, I know. I love that. I don't think I have a dose of this in here. But, protecting the renal epithelium is a real visualization. It's like I encourage people. It's like close your eyes, get with your breath, and then the amazing journey, going within, because there's so much going on, and it's like, the brain is connected to all this, and then I'll find myself just thinking things like, why am I thinking that? It's because, there's communication, and so it makes us smarter in terms of how we can call for the things we need. Again, that discernment, it's like, what do I need? It's too many things to know. And so, like, if you happen to be listening to this podcast and it's like, oh, wow. I mean, when I first heard about BPC 157, the first peptide I learned about, it was just like, ah, I want that.
I was
Ooh, it's like chicken.
looking up.
It's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, really. That was exactly me. The first time I heard about BPC and peptides, I was like, why have I never heard about these things? And now I'm down the rabbit hole of peptides, and that was my first love affair was BPC, and here we
And
are.
you brought this up before, but I want to reinforce it. These are not pill for ill.
No.
You get a headache, you take an aspirin, and the headache goes away. This isn't that, because this is a long hauler illness. When you look at
Yeah.
kidney stuff, and there's a lot of messaging going on, messed up messages, attempting to keep homeostasis messages, and so the low-hanging fruit has to happen
Mhm.
before these bioregulators are added on top of that. I think of them as the cherry on top of the cake, and I call it the tree of kidney lifestyle. It's like harvest the fruit, and that means you really got to get your diet together. There's no cheating. You just choose things, and sometimes choose things that aren't perfect. You don't have to be perfect, but you can be. You can just be that impeccable. Sleep, no brainer. You got to work on that. Figure it out. Use your aura ring. Um, Exercise is not optional. Even if you're sitting at your office doing this, I did a podcast with Jen Fleglar, and she was on
Oh
her tread
yes.
the whole time. I loved it and made me want to like move around with her. Um, Stress has to get looked at, and that could be, who are the stressful people in your life? Detox them. You don't have to be a people pleaser when you're trying to get well. That doesn't mean you're not nice, but
Yeah.
priority is put on your seatbelt first. Toxin examination. If you're eating poison, you're breathing poison, you're cleaning your house with nasty stuff and painting with toxic stuff, all of that, the bioregulators can't get that. They're not like magic pills. They
Yeah. I'm
are
glad.
magic pills, but they're not going to fix stupid. Is basically that kind of expression, and it's easy to be stupid in this world. I mean, you go to a potluck and, oh, somebody brought all me, and it's taken a lot of self-discipline. That's why I call it kidney yogi, to really
Yeah.
make choices that support that which I desire, as opposed to, I had a cheat day. I'm an adult. This isn't a game. It's like, I might choose, and like, can I have a bite of your whatever you're eating? Yeah, I don't need to do, it's a constant conversation. And then the discipline of taking these things regularly with joy, as opposed to like, oh, wow, poor me, negative limbic system, the, it's like the optimism of, wow. I mean, I live in that. I'm in this like delighted cloud of going from a GFR of 30 with one kidney to 68. I'm ecstatic. I feel fine. I'd like it to get higher. You've said, yeah, it's possible without hyperfiltration, and
Yeah.
I'll get around to going to do some more labs and see how it is. But adding the bioregulators to that solid terrain, that entity that really cares. It's like there's a reciprocity. I have to meet the effects of these things with enthusiasm. And I have my moments, where I'm like, when I was very sick, I think the illness itself is so neurotoxic that
Yeah.
it's a state of sadness, grief, loss. We might want to call it depression, but it's really you're grieving. This being that I used to be isn't there anymore. I have to recreate. Who am I? How do I do things? When do I say no? That discernment. Social obligations, not so much as I used to. And upon that, then these help that. They're 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 not crutches. They're really like your cheerleaders to succeed. And so I'll say this again for everybody: is I created this thing called Renology, which came out of the dictum from my oncologist who said, "Do not use the word failure." She was really intense, and I was like, "Gotcha." And she's an integrative doc and knew about the limbic system. And besides, like she said, you're in stage 3. It was just about at stage 4, but um, that's not failure. And so then I heard nephrologists don't want to use the word renal. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it. And so what I say is that the idea that you can't get better, which is part of the dharma of nephrology, is expect to lose 5% a year, was told to me.
Yeah.
I was like, no, 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 no. And so it is the art and clinical science of kidney success.
I love that. Show the book again, Robin.
And when you hear the term kidney success, your whole body changes. Oops, I'm going to tilt you over.
I love it. I'll put a link to the book below if anyone wants to order it, because it has got every bioregulator you can think of, especially the
All
kidney,
of them.
and then
All of them. And I also have a website that I'm starting to add some blogs that are really quite interesting. I mean, I'm having fun because I'll have an idea and then start weaving it together. I mean, I wrote one last night. I was up way too late on the my kidney kitchen recipe of fermented garbanzo crepes. A very lovely addition to a plant-based diet because they're garbanzo beans instead of bread. It's not rice. It's not, it's not wheat. It's garbanzos. And so I looked into this because fermentation actually diminishes the benefit of phytates.
yes.
And so I was like, well, wait a minute. Phytates in plant-based proteins are phosphorus binders. They also can bind other things like, just like, the carnosine issue. And so, monitoring minerals and nutrients is a good idea every now and then, not too rarely. And so it said, eat them with vegetables. And if you really need to, you can take a little bit of bicarb after a meal, which is like interesting. So it will get to the duodenum and protect from this loss. And so, it's just an interesting thing. I hadn't thought about fermentation interfering with phytates. So that sent me on a
Well,
whole.
I will make sure I put a link to your website so people can ponder your amazing musings as you go along. I love it.
Yeah. And I put all these podcasts. So it's Renology is Kidney Success, all one word, no punctuation.com.
Love it. And there'll be a link in the show notes. Dr. Rose, before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to say?
What do I want to say? Carnosine is one of my favorites, and I encourage everybody to look into it. I think I'll get a little diligent and put some stuff on the website. So those who haven't found their way to the book, it's not the cheapest book, and it's
A
not
big, thick textbook, so that's fair
not
enough.
the skinniest book, but the first chapter. I'm getting rained on. I gotta move. Excuse me. Um, there's a lot in the first section about basic understanding of kidney that isn't discussed by you, I'm sure it's discussed, but in general, none of these things were ever mentioned to me by 5 nephrologists.
Yeah, right.
So these are ways that we can educate ourselves. I didn't water it down, but people are telling me, they just look stuff up. It makes sense. And you don't have to remember all the molecules. I don't, I'm still looking it up myself.
I
And
don't
yet,
either.
the bigger picture is I will. I can get better. I will, and I have. And just, that self-love and optimism and, the body, mind, spirit part of all of this really counts, really makes a difference. And so let's all have joy and fun together, getting better.
I love it. What a beautiful message. Well, as I said, I'll put in Dr. Robin Rose's links to her website below and where you can order her book from. And if you want to make sure you stay tuned for all the episodes of Bioregulators that Dr. Rose and I are going to put out here, make sure you hit subscribe and like. That way you'll get notified anytime we put up new content. If you have any specific questions for Dr. Rose or about the podcast, put them below and we will make sure to get back to you. Thank you for being part of
it. You can contact me on the website as well, by the way.
Right, there you go. She said you can contact her, so I'll make sure that's all there too. Dr. Rose, thank you for being part of our community. We appreciate you, and everybody listening, thank you for being part of our community as well. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Aloha.